All right. Hello, Capricorn. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully, your week is getting off to a good start. Very much looking forward to looking at all of the energies coming through for you for the next month, next 6 to 8 weeks to be exact. And thanks for joining. This is my furry little assistant, Apollo. Always like to bring him up at the beginning, actually to calm me down and get me centered and give you all a little bit of love too. All right, let's put him back in his little bed and get started. First of all, my name is Nicholas Ashbaugh, as I said. I'm going to be helping you today navigate opportunities. As a reader, I believe that we have a lot of free will. That's why we're here. And whenever I look at a reading for you, whenever I look at the energy coming through, it's really to empower you, to set you up for success. So that's my goal today and always. The format for my reading is right here. I like to begin with energy that comes through from dreams and meditation. At the very beginning, that's the channeled messages and the totems that I work with. Then we'll get into the cards and we'll do a lot of different things with the cards. It's not just a Celtic Cross. I do that, but I also give it kind of free rein to go in the direction it needs to, not constraining it just to romantic energy. We'll look at that instead in the expanded forecast, where we look at health, wealth, love, and destiny. And then the rest of this is going to give us a chance to kind of make sure that we don't miss anything. And just as a little sneak peek, we're going to be talking about photography as your totem today, something that I did in high school and actually in college. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And I learned how to do like black and white development. So when I'm talking about the development, it'll be from that sort of perspective. And we've had a few things this month coming up with like how you see things. I actually talked about the eye in another sign, and there's a lot of similarities with photography. And I think it's going to be really important to kind of helping you capture the energy of this moment in time and developing yourself and things like that. So we'll talk about that in a moment. If you have any questions, I'd please ask you to hold off on asking them here. Just wait until the end. I always give you a chance to meditate on one question that you might have. And usually over the course of this reading, I'll cover everything that needs to be covered. Let me pet my dog again because he's going crazy here in the background. I know, buddy. You want to join in, don't you? All right, there we go. Sometimes with Apollo, I'll take off the graphic. You just have to tuck him in. He's like, thanks, Dad. All right, for those of you that have dogs, you know what I'm talking about. They have their own sort of needs and energy. All right, so a couple quick notes before we get started. If you would like to join in the live chat, I'll ask you to subscribe just so that I know that everybody here really intends to be a part of the community. Subscribing is also absolutely free and will keep you posted on when I upload any new videos and post any news or information to my community tab. If you want to make sure you never miss a notification, hit the bell icon and click all rather than personalized. And that way you'll keep in touch. And as many of you know, I had to shift my broadcast time from 9 a.m. to 6 a.m. while I'm looking for a new apartment. It's probably going to have to go on for another month or so until I find a new space, but subscribing and opting into notifications will keep you posted on when that changes back to normal. Then you can also follow me on social media. All of my handles are right here. It's basically my name with no changes in spelling across all social media platforms. A reminder that I don't do personal readings and I don't send direct messages or answer those, so just make sure that if somebody's doing that or offering that, you know it's not me. And Twitter is the only thing that's a little bit different because of character limits on my name. All right, if you'd like to show some love and support, you can do that, again, for free just by subscribing, but you can also give back with super stickers, super chats, and also if you happen to watch this on replay, there's a thanks option, which is super thanks, and all of that goes right back into the channel and helps me buy new cards and things of that nature. All right, so let's get started. We're gonna begin, as I said, with the channeled messages. Let me get the presentation set up, and we're gonna talk about photography today and actually like intuitive development and development of self, because to me, that's really what this represents. All right, one moment here. Welcome everyone again. It's good to see your faces. And by the way, there's something new that I'll be doing in today's, well, I started it last month, but now I cover sun, rising, and moon specific messages. You can use this reading for any aspect of your chart, but towards the end of the reading, I'll make sure that I cover those. All right, so today we're going to be talking about photography and the sort of science behind it, the art behind that, and then the developmental energy that this totem actually represents. I don't always use something in nature. A lot of times I've been like just regular objects can come through. For some reason, this month in particular, we're looking at the month of June here, even though I'm reading it in May. the guides really want us to focus on capturing the moment, paying attention, being very present, and that's why the camera came through for you. All right, so a little bit of geeking out, and I liked this definition. Photography is the art, application, and practice of creating durable or lasting images by recording light, something that light workers would enjoy here, either electronically or by means of a sensor like the new cameras. And for those that develop, it's the silver halide, I think, on the basically the film rolls. So, but the first piece is the key here. It's the art, application, and practice. Those three things alone give us a lot to talk about. Focusing on the creative part of yourself, applying that skill, recognizing what's your calling, applying your calling to the moment, and really practicing it until you get good at it. And everything in life that we're not having some sort of God-given gift, or we've worked on it 30 lifetimes ago and it's just part of our DNA. Most things we have to kind of work at to get better. Language is a great example. Even if you are a polyglot and you speak many languages, you still have to learn the basics of certain languages that don't have like a common thread with others, and you have to practice it, and you have to learn the idiosyncrasies of each and every language. One thing that, even if you speak like English, for instance, British English and American English, or Australian English and American English, very different. And the way that we use like sarcasm in the United States and just different things get lost, right? Humor is the biggest sort of thing if you're watching like a comedian. So anyway, you have to practice it, and then you have to recognize the nuances of that skill. So photography is an art, it's a science, it's a practice, and it reminds us that if we really want to get good at something, we have to bring the application and the practice element into it, like really put it to work. So what is your art? What is your sort of special skill that you want to develop this month? That's really the big question with everything that I'm going to talk about here. That's what the camera came through to kind of remind you of. Why did I choose the Four of Cups? Because the last bullet here, if you miss something in the blink of an eye, it's kind of, that moment is gone. Photos, at their core, they represent a memory or context. They are a record of history in many cases. Sometimes they reveal something that we missed. You look at the picture and you see someone that was sad in a party, for instance, or you see someone that was, kind of like giving you a flirtatious glance, and you never saw that until you looked at the picture. So they can capture something you missed. So be present and then go back and review things. Look at things that you thought you understood or thought that you knew. You may see that there's some additional levels of meaning, a latent image that kind of comes through. So exposure, of course, is important in photography, and it doesn't matter what kind. I'm looking into a camera right now as we're doing this. I have to have lights here, or I am underexposed. It's hard to see me. It's very hard to see the cards. And I have to control the exposure in front of me versus in the back of the room. Because I use a prime lens here, when I put something up towards here, then everything else kind of goes out of focus here. So it helps limit what you can see so we can really look at something close up. So that was all intentional. Light's kind of magical, and how much light you have or how little light you have is going to control what you're paying attention to. So putting the spotlight on something, our energy, like when we focus on something, it's much like the light. We can decide to put so much of our light and energy and focus on something that everything else blurs out in the background, right? So we'll talk about the focus being important. When you put that focus in, magical things can happen there. Too much light, you get everything blown out and you can't see it. Too little light, it's dark and you can't make things out. All of this talk about exposure is actually also about allowing yourself to try something new. Because if you constantly do the same thing, or if you go too fast or don't go, kind of push yourself in far enough, you're never going to allow for the development to happen. So one thing that's also coming through with this message is to basically try something new. It's like a flavor of ice cream, or a type of cooking, or a new language, or a different country, or different custom. If you don't expose yourself, if you don't try, if you don't basically let the shield down a little bit and just see, well, what is this like? How do I feel? Let me take the lens off, my cultural lens, my familial lens, my preconceived notions, and just taste it, just try it, just test it out and see, maybe this is for me. So That's also what this is about. And justice is saying, I'm going to give this a fair shot. I'm not going to kind of let my biases step in. So developing takes time. I remember being in the dark room in high school and in college when I took some of my photography classes, and you're going to have to spend some time like shaking the sort of developer. You're going to have to take time when you're putting the photo through the different baths. You have to time that out. Then you have to hang it up, and all of these things. It's actually all about timing. Everything you put it in too long and you start to ruin something, right? So that's one thing to remember, is the timing of that. Allow yourself to develop and don't rush the development. You might also be asked to step into a situation that has increased visibility. And the main message here, since we just talked about the timing and the exposure piece, is just to allow yourself to go for it. You're not going to become a success immediately in a new situation that challenges you, that stretches you. Sometimes we step into something and we're just natural for it. But if you're pushing yourself for a stretch goal, which every lifetime there's at least one stretch goal, there's something that's going to require work. Otherwise, we wouldn't come back and reincarnate. We would just stay up in the spiritual realm and hang out as a luminous being. We come back because we have things we need to learn. We have karma we need to release. We have something that we haven't yet explored and we're curious. So spend some time this month and stretch and push yourself, and remember that it's good to struggle a little bit in these areas so that you have something to look forward to, so that you can start to see growth, so that you can start to see movement. That's why a lot of times when somebody retires, they have to reset and find some new things. If you just retire and you have no plans, it can actually be overwhelming or depressing. You have to sort of think like, well, okay, I'm going to get involved with the community. I'm going to take some classes and do some things I never thought I could do. I'm going to enjoy this free time because now I can do whatever I want, but I don't want to just sit here and do nothing. So the dream is to try to kind of like structure your life and your day as you can. You don't have to retire to do that, by the way. Start to structure and move your life in a direction that you like now. So whether you're 18 or you're retired in your 80s, 90s, or 100, I don't care. You should always be trying to add some of that energy and some of that exposure and some of that developmental growth into your life. So the Magician card is powerful if and only if it is focused. So I have an autofocus lens on here so that as I move in and out, things can come in and out of focus, and I don't have to sit here and reset it. So we don't always have an autofocus in our brains. We have to sort of sit here and think, wait, is this important? And what you'll be doing is measuring it like the Six of Pentacles. Does this help me achieve my goal? Does this make me feel happy? Is this in some way, shape, or form allowing me to learn something that I didn't? If there's a lot of no's there, then that is helping tip the scale in the direction of change. If there's a lot of yeses, then the yeses outweigh the struggle. And then you see the struggle as a necessary component. Just like exercise, you have to stress and strain the muscles just a little bit so that they can grow. You don't do it too much, otherwise you can pull a muscle or break a bone or whatever. So you're finding that perfect sort of cadence, and then also that the limits that you have. You're pushing it just before the limit, and then you're pulling back. And that's really what this is about. And then if you get distracted, that's when the Magician kind of messes up. So make sure that you're focusing on the task at hand, putting all the energy where there's the most return on the investment of the energy. And this is going to help you manifest faster. The Magician needs to believe that he has the potential to do something, because magic only, I wrote in my book, I think that magic is just a new truth waiting to be discovered. I also think magic is just a description for something we don't yet understand. We call it magic because it seems otherworldly, but magic to us may be science to some alien race out there, right? What we're doing here, they're like, yeah, of course there's energy and you can read the path of energy. And yes, you can use different divination methods to tap into that. That's part of our science. So we call things magic that are just not understood. You are magical. You have access to these yet to be discovered realms of energy. So trust that the impossible could be possible, and let the universe show you. Let the energy show you what can really happen. Don't sort of like let other people come in and take away your magic, okay? Stay focused, believe in yourself, and really apply yourself where you're getting a return on the energy. And I keep saying this in different ways, but this is the last time I'm going to say it. You've got to let things unfold. There's a latent image when you expose film to light. Until you put it through a chemical process and the silver kind of washes away on the black and white film, there's a process that happened there, but you're not going to see anything. It would just come out. And in fact, if you don't do the processing, you're going to lose the image because then it will all get exposed. So you expose one frame of the film and then it advances up into the canister. And then you have to put it through a chemical reaction to permanently freeze it. But if you were to just look at it in a dark room, you wouldn't see anything until you basically put it through the process. So you have this sort of latent possibility, but you have to expose yourself to the proper opportunities around you, the proper sort of like knowledge. You have to apply things. You have to allow things to develop. And then this sort of invisible image that's already there that could happen will start to then manifest. So when you have a dream, when you have a desire, when you have an inkling of something that you can do, that's your latent image. Then you have to decide, I want this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to let the time unfold and let things reveal themselves to me, and I'm going to develop into what I saw, what that snapshot was that was revealed to me. And that's it. You don't know what's possible until you allow this process to unfold. There's a little bit of surrendering that is a part of this as well. So today, as we look at your cards, we're going to look at possibilities and then any sort of things like fears or doubts or distractions that get in the way of the development of that possibility. Okay? Hopefully you enjoy and that kind of connected with with what you're working on in the moment here. All right, so let me go ahead now and select some decks here. I was called to maybe even pull in a black and white deck. So let me pull a few as I'm talking. You can throw out a suggestion or two if you'd like, and I'll see if something resonates as I'm doing that. Let's see what's coming through here. I have a black and white deck that I think, Bianco Nero, that I might use. So give me a second here, and we'll take a look at some of this stuff. So I'll just give you a shot at the desk as I'm doing this. Okay, so let's take a look at what's coming through here. All right, so this was one that I was called to use. I don't use black and white that much, but that's one. Let's see what else. This one's kind of cool for today because it has black and white silhouettes, and this is black and white. So those are kind of different decks that I haven't used. I often get people complaining that I always go to the same ones. Not true. Let's see here. Because we're talking about, could do Everyday Witch. Could do Everyday Witch because we're talking about magic. And let's see if there's another one that I haven't used. All right, I'm looking for any suggestions here. Let's see. All right, I may do I think this will give us a good selection of options. Yes. Okay. All right. I pulled a few out from the archives though that I haven't used in a while. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I think we've got enough here to choose from. I'm going to give you a chance to vote, so hold off, don't actually type it out. I'm gonna put a poll up here so you can properly vote, and I'll show you some images. We have just a few that were from the past. I'm trying to see if there's any other ones that I haven't used in a while that are worth it. I think this is good. Okay. Here we go. Let's get started and see what messages are coming through for you today. Again, you can use this for sun, rising, moon, and we'll get into all of that in just a second. All right, so we have, I believe it's called Bianco Nero for black and white, or white and black, as that's kind of the reverse. It's Italian, I believe. And then this is the Spirit. Let me just make sure I get the right name of it. Spirit Within. Haven't used it in eons. Spirit Within. And then we have Everyday Witch. No, not Everyday Witch, but this is okay, Everyday Witch. And then we have the True Heart Intuitive. Okay, I feel like these are going to give you some good options. Let me show you a few images from each. So this one is pretty rare in tarot decks. It's all black and white. So I don't always use it on camera because it's not as interesting to look at. That's basically the main image, or the main reason that I do it. Don't use it, rather, is just because it doesn't photograph well, but it's kind of cool to just see black and white. This one kind of bridges the gap between that. So we have silhouettes, so you're not focusing on what the person looks like, but rather the scene. And so option number 2 has pops of color in it, but also the sort of black and white elements. And then we have just a deck of magic because we're talking about the magical elements of photography. And then one of my favorites here as well, a newer one, just because it's a different take on things and it provides me some different perspectives. So the first two kind of working with photography, the latter two just because they're cool decks to work with. All right, so it looks like we have a pretty good winner here. It's the Spirit Within. Good choice, everyone. I haven't used it in a while and I think you'll like it. Okay, let's get to the reading. All right, let me just make sure you can see me as we're doing this. Okay, so welcome everyone. If you just joined, by the way, we're going to be taking a look at the Celtic Cross here. Again, this is going to be for the next 6 to 8 weeks. I'm reading for Capricorn today, and I'm glad you all could make it. With 2 together there, so I'm going to leave them together. Zoom in just a little so you can see it. Wow, you've got a ton of beautiful kind of green energy here with all the pentacles. Lots of growth. This kind of really connects with what we were talking about. Okay, let's zoom out just a bit and expand this forecast. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully your week is getting off to a good start. You have a really cool spread of energy here as I'm looking at this. I love the golden egg here at the end. I also love this sort of interesting energy between the World and the Four of Pentacles that's creating this opportunity for growth, but a little bit of fear of going into that growth. So I feel like overall this is about expansion, but we're going to try to help you not be afraid to get into that energy of expansion. Let's begin everything with what's going on here. So I mentioned and I highlighted the star card earlier today because of this. We've got achievement. I really do feel like you're being set up for visibility, growth, a positive sort of movement. But for some of you, it's more fun to, and less pressure, let's put it this way sometimes, to be in the background. When people see your potential, then they start to expect more sometimes, right? So that can sometimes lead us to underperform or to sit back and just think, if I am not noticed, if nobody's paying attention to me, I can just kind of like breeze in and breeze out and have my time, have my energy, have my space. You have a moment right now where there's something going on where you could keep doing that, but you actually have a chance to snap out of that, and people will look at you differently in a positive way. It's going to be like, wow, I've been underestimating you. I didn't realize you could do that. Or why didn't you tell me that you were interested in this? We've been looking for someone. So I would say to you, don't hold back when there's something important that you could offer, that you are inspired to say or do, because that achievement card and the world card that we saw in the crowning position, it's basically saying you not only can, but you should do this next sort of opportunity that's presenting itself, okay? So we have an achievement card here. Some of you could be overachievers. Capricorn, that's a very Capricorn trait. Particularly if you're Capricorn in the ascendant. We'll look at the sun, rising, moon at the end, but one thing that I'll say with this, for the Capricorn ascendant, that's something that I am. It is one of the best placements, but it can also be a big burden sometimes because you're so worried about how well things are done that you can have like type A personality. You could be a recovering perfectionist where you have to feel like everything has got to be just so. So one thing that we want to do here is remember that there's a surrendering, as we said before in the channel messages, to a process and patience and developmental energy that go into it. So it's not about being perfect. It's about achieving the goal and growing. As long as you continue to grow, mistakes, missteps, they're just context. They're just lessons along the way. You're still achieving. You're still doing what a Capricorn wants to do, which is to get the job done. So try to give yourself room to get better. And it's more about like an average. I don't really watch baseball, but it's like the batting average, right? So it's not about every time at bat. It's kind of like how good the number is over time. So you can make a few mistakes, but if you're more often than not doing the right thing and you're going towards the right direction, so be it. That's okay. You can't get every single opportunity. Can't kind of like hit it through the gate. So don't worry about it. Okay. Give yourself time to and permission to make a mistake and then learn from the mistake and then thrive because you've gained that sort of context. I think people that have been through a little bit of struggle, challenge, or had something go wrong, they're more pleasant, they're more appreciative, and they're more present in what's going on in the moment. So pleasant and present sounds the same, but not the same. It's just sort of like, yeah, you're nicer because you understand that things could be worse and you've been through something more difficult, and that allows you to really soak in this moment in time. So anyway, those are the messages there. Let's go to the center, and we have the Chariot card here, and he's a skateboarder. I love modern interpretations like this. So with this, what's kind of cool about this, if you think of a traditional Chariot card, there's a person that has two horses in front of them and they're pulling the reins. There's a few decks now that take out the whole metaphor. You either see just the horse or just the person. So in this deck, there's leadership. This is basically a leadership card. And you lead. You're not trying to pull people with you. You're not following the energy of those beasts of burden. You're basically doing this on your own. And leading the charge, having some fun with it, and realizing, like with skateboarding, you can go in directions people couldn't in traditional vehicles or traditional paths. So this is a very non-traditional approach towards something. And, skateboarders can, especially if they have like one of those pipes that they kind of, go on, they can go up and they can go on a sideways direction. They can go on the sidewalks when basically bikes can and cars can't. So I see you being able to travel down a path that others can't because of your unique approach, skills, or the way that you work or travel. So be kind of unconventional in your approach to leadership, to work, and to getting something done. And you are doing this on your own. Not in a lonely sort of way, but in the way that a skateboarder would, where it's basically like, this is fun. Have some fun with it. So work doesn't have to feel so heavy. It doesn't have to be torturous. I actually feel like if you're getting up in the morning and you think to yourself, oh, another day, or if you're going to school and you think, I hate what I'm studying, why am I doing this? That is a mental reset There needs to be something that is enjoyable about whatever it is that you're spending time in, a relationship, a job, or a course of study. Because if you're not deriving some sense of joy, or it doesn't give you some sort of resource that allows you to spend time and have fun with something, then this is too much of an investment. Remember, you're putting too much energy in that, and you're lacking the focus and you're lacking the return. Okay? We have 9 of Pentacles on top of this. And basically this is saying you are on the path. You have also what it takes, even if you're not on the path yet, to success. I love the 9 of Pentacles because it shows self-sufficiency, independence, and also this sort of ability to take or leave something because you're not relying on someone else. That's the whole goal for financial freedom and self-reliance is I don't have to say yes and I don't have to do this. Financial freedom is just freedom. So if you want to focus on one thing this month, it would be, and it's good because we're in retrograde, it's canceling out debts. So if you have a karmic debt or if you made a promise and haven't fulfilled the promise, do the first thing. Like the first thing you should focus on is getting rid of that energy, finishing up your engagements, your promises, your contracts, literal and also energetic. So just get that sort of cleared out. Then look at your debts, your actual monetary debts or any contractual obligations. Get those things taken care of next. And then focus on what it is that you're going to do to ensure that in the future you're more independent, that you can kind of take care of yourself. So both of these cards are independent. This one's fiercely independent, but it's come through hard work. The little snail is missing, but you know what I always say with that, it takes time, and it's not if you finish first, it's just sort of how well you finish. And then with this card, it's saying, my path is going to look different than your path, and especially different than what my parents expected of me. So I'll get there, but it's going to have some twists and turns, and those are the exciting parts of the journey, and I'm not going to deny myself a chance to surprise myself and surprise others through those twists and turns. Okay? Beautiful, beautiful energies, basically, with those two. All right, so let's look at what's affecting you in the deep past here. So we have the Ace of Pentacles in the deep past, and it's reversed. So many of you are looking at maybe some of the money that you've saved up, and you think to yourself, why am I waiting for a rainy day to do X, Y, or Z? So maybe there's a trip that you wanted to take, there's a course that you wanted to study, there's something in your life, maybe you want to buy or sell something. This is about taking one investment and putting it into something else, or maybe selling something as well. Upright, you're usually receiving. Reversed, you're either selling, moving around, or deciding that I want to do something for myself. And if you want to do something for yourself, this is the right time to do it. By the way, yeah, if you want anything, if you want information on the decks, you can go to my website. There's actually a list of them there. I'll post it in a moment when I go to the channel messages, but let me just get through my process now. One thing with the Ace of Pentacles is it reminds you when it's reversed that you just need to ask. Sometimes, I talked about this on the weekend, you never know what you can receive until you raise your hand and say, hey, how about this? Or I'd like to put my hat in for consideration for this. So if you want something, ask for it. If you need something, let them know and actually sort of like put all the data together and say, you know, if I could have this resource, I could do this. I can't do everything you want because of this, this, and this. Why don't we work on it? So this is a very proactive approach. And when you can back up your request, you have a much higher chance of that getting approved and rubber stamped with a yes. So ask for whatever it is that you want or need. You just might get it. If you don't ask, it's a surefire way to get a no, because nothing's out there, right? You're just leaving it up to chance. So speak your mind, state your intentions, and then back them up. And you have a good chance then of receiving whatever it is that you want. All right, here's the tricky energy as we're looking at recent past and things that are possibly pulling you back just a little bit. So we have your first distraction coming through in the form of the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords was reversed, so it tells me that many of you are moving beyond, trying to win a battle that you can't win, or trying to speak to someone that doesn't want to listen. So we see three different sort of types of Five of Swords here. We have someone in the past that's just shut down, right? They're just not connecting, they're not listening, they're too much in their own head and possibly hurting too much to be able to tune into you. So that's one type of Five of Swords that comes through on this. We have another person here that's walking in a different direction. You don't share a common interest. You don't share a common goal. Therefore, you're not going to be able to meet eye to eye. This happens all the time, everyday stuff. So sometimes people just don't care, right? They don't care how you feel, or they don't care if it's for the right reason. Usually it's a self-serving motive when that happens. We also have someone here in the front that is deciding to take what they need from the situation and leave. So the best thing that you can do with the 5 and the 7 of Swords is at a certain point, cut your losses, because those energies are difficult to deal with. If you have 7 of Swords, you have someone who's often dishonest or can't see the truth. And then with the 5 of Swords, you have someone who doesn't want to listen, always has to be right, and isn't going to let you win for the life of them. So these two cards typically have a way of interweaving themselves. So I don't see it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it shows up. It's one of the sister cards or brother cards where they just kind of show up in tandem. So when I see the 5, I see a latent 7 somewhere. So it's about being honest, and it's about also just realizing that sometimes it's not worth the battle. So look in your relationships right now. Is there someone in your life that just you feel at this point maybe isn't worth the energetic investment of your time and your love too, because love is a resource. And then also look at something, it could be an environment that you're working in, school or work, where they just don't follow through on what they say they're going to. And when you bring up something, they don't care. It's a one-way street. It's like, well, this is the policy. And even if the policy's wrong, we don't care. So that rigidity leads to frustration, and it leads to a suppression of your growth potential. So we don't want that anymore. The next thing is kind of cool. It's almost like we got your blessing and block already, but it's okay. We're just going to look at these cards here and talk about them here. So the one that wanted to come through was the World. The one that's literally attached to it was the 4 of Pentacles. They're reversed, but I'm going to pull them up, and we're going to focus on these because these are very powerful cards. So the universe says, I have a new opportunity on the horizon for you. It's time to move on, to move up, to move out. Are you ready? On a soul level, the message that came through was, I'm afraid. What if this, where I'm at, is as good as it gets? What if what you're showing me isn't as good as that? Should I hold on and just stay? One phrase that drives me nuts is the devil you know. I like to remind people that the devil you know is still a devil, and no devil is worth connecting energetically with. So if you're staying with something or someone because you're like, well, at least I know how to navigate the bad with them. There's still the bad energy there. So don't, and also the devil you know in this can be sort of limiting yourself. Well, at least I have this. If I have that, I'm not sure what I'll have. So never let the devil you know hold you back, because he's still the devil or she's still the devil. It's still limiting energy. That phrase needs to be thrown out in the cosmos and obliterated. It's as bad as you complete me, because you complete you, and the devil you know is a devil. So what you're going to do is allow yourself to move beyond the restricting energy of the devil and the 4 of Pentacles. The way to do this is to think to yourself, I am a limitless being capable of growth. I am excited to see where the next step can take me. I am not limited by others' projections, by my own fears, or by environmental factors. I am open to explore. I want to discover. I want to push through this illusion of a block. It's time for me to move up, to move out, to move on, to explore, to expand. The litmus test, or the scale with which you're measuring things this month, would be, does it allow for expansion or growth? We picked up on it in the channel messages, and it's your crowning card today, growth. Fear holds back growth. The devil, you know, holds back growth. Limiting yourself for some reason can also, of course, hold back growth. So don't limit yourself. Don't stay because of fear or because of the devil. The devil, you know what we're saying here, okay? Because what I see here is, in the near future, expansion, growth, positivity, 8 of Pentacles. If you decide to put energy into something, you are going to learn, you are going to expand, you are going to grow. Your head sees where everything is headed. It's a big, big picture here in the crowning position. This is the application and the practice, which we talked about in the developmental sort of energy of how to take a picture and how that picture becomes a photograph, right? So that's important. So when somebody's here saying you realize your limitations, I think it's good to know how far you can push yourself in certain directions. But one thing that I'd like to kind of encourage you to think about is to know that sometimes we are limited because someone says, you're too young, you're too old, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough. Those aren't always real. Those are oftentimes projections that then we internalize and make them a limitation. Now, there are other things where, yes, you're going to have some physical restraints and some other things that may kind of keep you back, or resource restraints, money, etc. But you can also think of ways to get around that, ways to fix that, and then also ask, is there another way? Is there another, this is something I like, how else can I do it? So don't just give something up there. So I think that's important, and give it a thought. And a lot of times education is a good way to get past the fear, because fear to me sometimes comes from a lack of knowledge. So when you gain the experience and the knowledge and the courage through that sort of schooling, then you're like, well, let me try this. I've got everything that I need. And sometimes that's all school ends up being. Like, maybe you even have the core skills, but the training gives you that sort of like moment in The Wizard of Oz where they put the plaques on people's chests and it's like, now you're brave. And really, you know, the lion showed his bravery and the Tin Man showed his heart, and all of that stuff. Basically everybody, what was it, the other one that I missed, but the other one, the brain, everyone, the scarecrow. They all showed kind of like what they were already, they thought they were lacking. So you might actually be like all of those sort of characters where it's just a matter of giving yourself the mantle and the opportunity to feel like you can do it, okay? By the way, Capricorn, you can do it. That's what you do. You learn, you master, and then you surprise people. So I'm just telling you, don't limit yourself. We have the Lovers here. This is a super attractive card. It does not always have to connect to love, but it absolutely can. So some of you are focusing on prioritizing the core relationships in your life. The card is reversed. So you may be thinking to yourself, I'm tired of doing all of this. What is it without love? What is it without joy? So prioritize it if that's what you want. And remember that you don't have to settle for anything less than what it is that you're trying to achieve here. So loving yourself in a way that's like accepting and supportive and positive, that's step one. And then requiring and expecting someone to have that same energy towards themselves and you. So self-respect and then mutual respect. We're looking for both in the next relationship, or trying to work on it in the current one. The Lovers reversed also reminds you that you cannot fake it. This is not something that you can fake it until you make it. If you don't have a spark with someone and you've been on a few dates and you've given it a shot, you can't create that. You can't make someone love you. You can't love someone else. So be honest with yourself, be honest with others, and expect people to come forward with the best version of themselves and bring your best version as well. But in business, the Lovers card is telling me that this is a good month for those of you that are looking for a new job, to really put yourself out there and to make sure that when you update your website, your CV or resume, or when you're interviewing, that you really feel that sense of being comfortable in your skin. So many of you may have had a gap because of the pandemic. Maybe there was unemployment, maybe you did a career shift, maybe you went back to school, maybe you had a kid. There's any reason, and that any number of reasons that you could kind of have a gap or an interesting spot on your resume. I would try to use that as a talking point rather than glossing over it, or see if they bring it up, and if the interviewer doesn't, then don't worry about it. But if they do, you could say, being a parent taught me how to really juggle 15 things at once and to keep my cool. It was the best experience I had. So embrace it. Maybe you took time off to care for someone, and you could say, being a caretaker, it showed me the importance of putting others first sometimes and really anticipating needs before they were communicated. You can take any situation and bring a positive energy from it. Really, just have to look at how did it change you, and how did it make you know you wanted to get to this moment in time. Put those two things in a sentence and And if the other person judges you, you could say, have you ever been through something similar? If you haven't, really you don't have the context through which this even makes sense to kind of talk about. Talk to me after you've been through this. And in the meantime, maybe I can share some things with you, or maybe I can enlighten you on this. Be in your strength, be in your light. Don't let them make you feel afraid, ashamed, etc. Everything is a part of your story, and it brought you to this moment. And remember, you're going to spotlight the other stuff too, the sort of higher energies around you. So that's something that's kind of coming through on this, is to make sure that you love and accept yourself and that you celebrate what you do. Sometimes people even judge what I do, and I don't care anymore. I'm like, no, I mean, you could call me many things. You could call me a coach. You could call me a video producer, a content creator, a YouTuber. I just am here to help people and to have a great time sort of working with people that want to work on their highest sort of energetic possibilities. So another way that I would say what I do is I raise the collective consciousness. And if anyone has a problem with that, that's because they're closed-minded and they're not my audience, so it doesn't matter. So find what your goal is, find your sort of tribe, and don't worry so much about optics. So the last sign that I read for, I think it was, it must have been Sagittarius. We were talking, I think, about the eye on that reading. So 6 of Wands energy is kind of coming in here, even if we haven't seen it. Don't worry so much about the optics. Worry about who you are, what you're doing, and why that matters to you. All right. 10 of Wands. Some of you might be moving in with somebody, because this is a card of moving. This, of course, is love. So you may be moving. You may be moving because you want something badly, like a job, or want to go to school, or want to learn something. So I see movement and travel in your environment here. The 10 of Wands can also be a pushy card when it's reversed. So there could be someone in your life that likes to use their power and push it around a little bit. It can be a bully sometimes, the 10 of Wands. So don't let that happen, because there's a lot of people that are in your corner and support you. You don't have to carry the weight of the world. This card in reverse is also about saying, I'm tired of this and I'm letting it go. It could be trying to argue with someone. It could be trying to fix something that doesn't want to be fixed. It could just be grief or sadness or anger, a lower frequency emotion that's been with you for a while. Because ultimately, this card is about graduating, ascending, and moving on to the next big thing. So the sooner you do release, let go, and reset, the sooner things start to get more fun for you. And this is a good card. It is about the next phase of the journey. But for many of us, we might need to let go. And when we can connect these two cards together, the World and the 10 of Wands, it becomes much more of a move, an actual move, not just a figurative one. So like if I were to combine the 6 of Swords as well, or that came up, I would say definitely. But for many of you, you're being asked, do I want to stay or do I want to go? This is true of relationships too. And if I want to go, what took me so long, or what is holding me back to kind of like get to this next thing? Because it seems like it can happen faster than you imagine. It could happen within the next month or the next 6 to 8 weeks. So let it happen if you're ready, okay? We have the 5 of Wands here. So this is the hope, fears, and opportunity. So for many of you, you may have already started to make that turn the new corner, new page in your life. And now you're sort of in this competition or completion phase, which happens with the 5 of Wands. Finding your inspiration, reminding yourself, why am I doing this again? What is the end goal? And then also trying to find a way to kind of like get all the people on the same page is going to be challenging. It looks like there could be a lack of leadership going on, or there could be an environment that you're in where people are just trying to show like they're it's machismo, or it's like competition. And so what you want to let them know is that that doesn't impress you, or that's not it doesn't matter to you. It's basically, are we getting this done? Who finishes first is not so important. Who gets the gold star, not so important. Teamwork, there's something in the teamwork that's getting lost right now. So figure out if it's something that's fixable, or if these two 5s are also connected, the 5 of Swords and the 5 of Wands. Sometimes there's a breakdown in leadership and communication. The best you can do is get your component done and hand it off. And if the relay race breaks down, that's not necessarily your fault if nobody's listening. So This to me is also a reason some of you may be looking to get out of a current environment, because there's just a lot of noise and there's maybe too few or too many leaders. Something's kind of lacking there. And finally, we have the Nine of Cups, which is a great outcome card here. And this card is one that typically comes in when there's something really great to celebrate, or there could be a challenge because the card was reversed. So the main thing that we see with this is I'm not going to let all of this overwhelm me. I'm going to use my passion. I'm going to use my emotions to inspire. So when you get really angry or really upset, get very motivated instead. That's one thing that I did when I'm looking for a new place. I was like, all right, this is kind of distracting. So I'm very motivated to find the best fit. I'm not going to take the first one. I'm not going to be forced out. I'm just going to find the best fit in the shortest amount of time as possible, but I'm not going to settle. So that's one way that I redirected my frustration, because it's a human emotion. You're allowed to be frustrated. So take frustration and alchemically put it into motivation. The same thing can work with jealousy. Jealousy is a great motivator, and it's a great inspiration. So if you look at someone and you're jealous of what they've accomplished, instead think, well, it's kind of inspiring, because look at what they overcame, or look at how quickly they did it. And I'm not really as jealous as I am sort of angry at myself that I haven't maybe had that opportunity, or I haven't set up the time. So let's get on it. Let's see what's going on. Do I need to change environments? Do I need to change my experience? What do I need to do to develop the same skills that they did? And so get motivated. So that's the main thing here, is to take the energy and transmute it into motivation, whatever it is. And that's going to be the rocket fuel that's going to take you to the next direction or the next dimension. The next portion of the reading is going to be the expanded forecast, where we look at health, wealth, love, and destiny. This portion is just a surefire way for us to make sure that we don't miss on the main energies that I know that all of you like, particularly the love piece. So I will cover that here in just a couple of moments. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at your first card. This is going to be health, which is going to constitute your mind, body, and spirit. And we have Archangel Michael, which is always the first candle in the background. I can't quite point at the same time. The first candle that I light, and it says, "Thank you, Michael, for surrounding me with your protective light." So when we're looking at this and abstracting it into a health message, we're looking at insurance, like making sure that you have health insurance, because that's protection, making sure that you're doing things on a day-to-day basis to ensure your own health and happiness. Also having boundaries and limits. Archangel Michael carries a sword, but a lot of times he carries a shield too. He's protecting himself. He's holding firm boundaries. So for many of you, it may just be a moment in time where you have to say, no, that doesn't work for me. Or we agreed to do this, not this. Or I already asked you not to sort of do this in my life. So whatever it is, holding firm and reminding people. Sometimes you have to pare it back, or to even show them the email or whatever and say, this was the agreement. What's causing this new sort of development in the discussion, because otherwise we're going to have to go back to the original agreement. So be firm, say no, and remind people what they said they were going to do. Okay. The sword, we can also look at this as the King of Swords, because ultimately this is one of the senior archangels, and he holds the sword. So King of Swords in reverse would also be getting straight to the point, going and getting legal protection if you need to for a certain thing, basically making sure that at all costs you're protecting yourself, your family, and your health. Okay. And that involved everything that we just talked about, from boundaries to insurance, to also just saying no, and even going back to legal precedents that protects you on all of those things. Let's look, actually, before we look at the cards, just a quick disclaimer. I'm helping you look at your own sort of emotions and energies, but I'm not a doctor. So as a tarot reader, work with a professional if there's anything going on in mental or physical health. But that being said, let's look at the cards and see energetically what you might be opening yourself up to at this moment in time. The Four of Pentacles can express itself with tight shoulders, clenched jaw, hypertension, high blood pressure, because you're basically internalizing emotions. So that disclaimer that I just talked about, go and talk to a professional if you're pulling any of this in. One way that you can work on it is exercise, that can be walking or swimming or anything that you or your health professional agree to. But holding on, you've got to do something to kind of like get it out. Art, dance, talking, singing, all of these things are other ways to get it out as well, but there has to be an outlet or a release. And that's what this is also saying. You got to let it go. Let's see what else is going on here. For those of you that carry heavy objects, or even if you have like a briefcase, attaché, or purse, you may have too much in it, or it may be, or even your chair, there's something that could be throwing your spinal balance off a little bit. So make sure that you are taking care of that. See a chiropractor if you need to. If you have any aches and pains in your body, take care of them before they get worse. Dealing with pressure at work, also super important before the 10 of Wands becomes the 10 of Swords and you have to take a sick day. Okay, so this is both of these. This is holding on to emotions and this is letting go of stress. So you need two releases here, a release valve for both to kind of get in a better space. And the 9 of Cups, one thing that is important here is that you don't have to be happy every day. And I know that sounds strange coming from a spiritual person, but it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel any emotion. You have to figure out what the root of the emotion is. So the emotion itself is not good or bad. The emotion is a reaction to a core issue that is asking for your attention. So when, like I said, I'm not judging jealousy. Jealousy, you can change it into something positive. You have to think, why am I jealous? And what can I do about it? Sadness and grief, you've got to go through them. You've got to process them. And you might have to talk to someone about them to kind of get some help with it. So for some of you, I just feel like there is an opportunity to find a different way to process or develop this sort of emotion that you're going through. So try to do it in a more constructive way, but ignoring it only makes it grow. So that's my little last piece of advice with a feeling in your life or an emotion in your life, is to really go a little deeper. And then if you need some help or perspective, get that help or perspective. One cool thing, and I didn't even get a chance to talk about it today with the history of the camera. There's this thing called camera obscura, where it's basically just like a hole, and then light gets passed through it, and then it kind of is projected. And that's one of the original sort of ways that camera was developed. But flipping of the image happens in our eye. I think it happens in that. It happens in the camera. So sometimes we have to flip things around. Emotions make us pause and look at things from a different perspective. If we don't feel and stop for a second, sometimes we don't get to see the different dimensions and different configurations of something. So your emotions can actually be a really useful tool in understanding something better. Okay? So this month, it seems to be a lot more in here and in here, in your head and in your heart. So do what you need to take care of those two things. Okay? We're going to move on to your wealth and career. This is going to be different for different phases of life, whether you're younger, mid-career, or retired. And I'll do my best to kind of touch on those different points of life. We have the divine matrix here. It says interconnectedness, synchronicity, and God coincidences or something like that. They've made up a word here. So I would say the synchronicity is the main thing that we need to look at, and interconnectedness, easy for me to say. But a synchronicity, I don't really believe in like a traditional version of luck or serendipitous sort of energy. I think that we open up windows that give us a chance to grow, but that luck is really the application of all of our life experiences and the preparedness to jump through that. So you are experienced, you are prepared, an opportunity comes in and you jump on it. You're lucky. You stumbled upon something. You really discovered a synchronicity that the universe said, I think she or he is ready for that. I'm going to put it in front of them and see what they do. So you are, you're going to be presented with a synchronicity this month. Are you ready? Are you present? Do you recognize it? So first thing is recognition. Second thing is the courage to kind of jump into it. And then the application of all the experiences together. That is my version of, or that's my understanding of luck. We call it luck because it seems like it happens in the blink of an eye. And for some people, they're better at manifesting synchronicities, so they're lucky. But that's really it. They're just really good energy alchemists. They're really good at taking something, moving into the next thing, and just hopping and hopping and hopping. So you have a chance to kind of get better at that this month. So let's see what's coming through with respect to what's the big opportunity, what's the synchronicity. Well, the world and the 10 of Wands. You're being asked to put yourself out there. The world is even stronger than the star. It's the last card in the major arcana. It's very visible. For those of you in business, this can be getting published, getting distributed, putting something into production, having someone recognize you, getting called out in a positive way. It's exposure, and it's expansion, and it's moving into the unknown. Right after this, we go back to the Fool. All this experience, you're kind of like a sophomore, wise fool. You go into an experienced fool state where it's like, now I'm starting fresh, but I have all of this energy and experience behind me, and I'm going to jump quickly through these things. I don't have to go through all 21 cards again. So that's what's really happening for you. But you're being asked to move, or to be more visible, or to put yourself in a place that you've never put yourself. So don't second guess that window when it happens. You may need to look beyond the borders, because the world card can be another country or another state or another province. And it could require you to go visit that too. So some of the limits in your life could be saying, like, I can only live here, I can only work here, I can only do this, I can only do that. So look beyond what you've done. The next thing is not a rerun. It is a level up. It's a +1. So you're leveling up and you're trying something new. You have new challenges, just like you would in a game, an old arcade game, but you also have better abilities. You have more tools. You have more life, So take that and run with it. Some other things here. For those of you that are currently working, there is this sort of opportunity to surprise people with an unusual approach, which we talked about. I think the toughest thing for those of you that are already in a path, it's that energy of like, this is as good as it gets. So the devil, we know, we talked about that. But the work may be not so inspiring, and the people may not be listening to you. You're doing a great job, but you may need to get out to move up. There's a glass ceiling, or there's a lack of recognition, and that's not great for some of you. Self-sufficiency here, a great sort of pool of knowledge. Again, there's an entrepreneurial energy that's popping up here if you're ready for it. It's just sort of a question of, some of you might be happier in a small group or team, but you have a chance to move on. I'm definitely seeing movement happening for career. If you're looking for a new job, again, moving is key, and you need to feel it. Can't fake it. If you don't like what you're doing, it might be time to look at other ways to sort of like other paths, or ways to kind of step up or step into a different direction. A lot of times repackaging your skills is part of that. That's what I'm doing. I took different skills and I'm doing something different with my path. So think about that. If you're retired right now, travel comes through in a large way. Some of you might be looking for travel in your job no matter what, because again, these two, all I'm missing is the 6 of Swords, but there's definitely a lot of energy around travel. So that might be a piece to that. If you're looking for something in your life, an activity, an opportunity, or growth, the Lover's card indicates that this comes through someone that you know. You don't have to do this all on your own. This isn't a burden. Reach out and sort of like socialize what it is that you're looking for. Kind of like if you are trying to find a date, trying to find an apartment, trying to find a job, you sometimes find more options when you talk to people about it and you say, oh, I'm in an interesting position right now. I'm looking for this. Do you know of anything? Put some feelers out there. That's going to be really powerful for getting you there quicker, for opening up a synchronicity. Okay. All right. Let's move on to love and relationships. And we have signs and reminders, and we have butterflies and looks like hummingbirds here. It's hard to tell, but I think so. But what's important here are, for each of us, there's been signs and symbols along the way. So warning signs are also welcoming signs, beacons, like a shining, blinking green light saying, come this way. Are you paying attention to the warning signs or the welcoming signs? When I pulled an image just for the slideshow earlier. I used the Four of Cups because sometimes what's right in front of you, you're not paying attention to, right? So let's take a look and break this down into 3 levels. Those in a relationship, looking for a relationship, or single and happy. So if you're in a current relationship right now, one of the interesting things here is it feels like one or both partners is actually kind of going in a really exciting direction or trajectory. So the question is, are you supporting one another on these growth paths? It feels like sometimes the communication might be breaking down. But again, if we go back to our catalyst, one or both parties is focusing on achievement or recognition or going to that next big thing. So it can be sometimes frustrating if you are being even asked, do you want to move with someone? Like they're going to go across country. Maybe the relationship is maybe it's newer. You're in a relationship, but they're like, I just got a job and it's in this part of the world. I know that's a big ask. Do you want to come with? And that's why for some of you, we actually got like the Lovers, the moving card. We have this card of like, is it worth the trade-off? Am I really, really happy here or not? So you're going to have to trust your heart on this one. And it's okay to say no if you don't want to do it. And it's okay to say yes, but you're going to have to figure out the logistics on that. For the rest of you, I think money and work are coming through. We have one person that wants to kind of hold on to things, another person that's excited about like, hey, if we do this, look at how far it's going to go. So you're going to have to look at track history on this. And if the person is usually pretty spot on with their investments, maybe it's something worth exploring. So a tug of war is what I see with current relationships. Not like breaking, it doesn't have to be a breaking up sort of thing. It's like, I'm being pulled in this direction. Are you also? And maybe you're also being pulled. So you're going to have to figure out if you can meet in the middle, or if sometimes you go to this side and sometimes they go to that side, because there's exciting opportunities on either side of the rope. It's not like one partner wins here. And that's a relationship. It's compromise. It's meeting in the middle. It's supporting one another at different points. So that's the big challenge. I actually see big growth on the horizon for both of you. And it's going to take some work. And one person's putting in a lot, and the other person is focusing more on their development. And that's probably the bigger part of the conversation for many of you. Okay. If you're looking for love this month, I actually think you might be a little busy and you might need to wait to let the dust settle. You are ready for it. I can see that in what's going on here. And I think it will happen for you, but I think that these 2 cards are like, how can I reduce the stress, or how can I finish what I've started, or how can I let the dust settle for this move or this thing that I'm going through right now. Once you get through that, then you have the time and the energy to be there for someone. Because you have to ask yourself, would I want to date myself right now if I'm this busy, if I'm focusing on all of this, and maybe I'm even not used to having someone in my energy, and that's part of it. So that's the big thing here is, on a heart level, I think you're ready, but there's a lot going on in the environment around you that you have to pull all the pieces together, make some actual room in your life so that person can enjoy your time and energy, and vice versa. Okay? But it's a yes. It's a good time for love if you're looking for it. You've just got to balance work and again, the dust settling, and for each of you, the dust settling is going to be a little bit different. Don't rush things in the new relationship. Don't push the person to make a decision too quickly. Let this unfold. Let this develop. The development energy is coming through for this for sure. Because this is a rushing card when reversed. It's forcing someone too fast to make a decision. And this is the work that's part of all new relationships. Just have some fun. Enjoy this moment of dating, of getting to know the person, and see where that leads. You have time. This month in particular isn't the decision-making month, is what I see, okay? For some of you, that may not be acceptable, and that's okay too. If you're on a deadline, if there's a biological clock ticking, or if you have other things and you're like, I need to know now, that's fine, but there's a chance that they're just going to say, I'm not ready, okay? So you get to choose on that one. I just want to kind of prepare you for that because I didn't get the Lovers here. I got like these final cards in the crowning and in the environment. So just don't push. Let things reveal themselves there. You can ask, you can state your intention, but no ultimatums. Let's put it that way. Okay? And if you're single and happy, you've got great potential this month for money and work. I really like whatever it is that you want to kind of like juggle around here. You do have the leadership. You do have the potential to make this work. I do see it growing. So hold on to a little bit of a contingency plan if you'd like to. I think a rainy day fund is good. This is also saying you may decide to, instead of putting 100% of whatever it is, you're going to phase it out and do like 60 or 70% of what your original plan was. And you may be surprised at how much you get back on that. And then you can pull this contingency in if it's successful. So anyway, I feel like it's a good month for success in business and in life and in any sort of tasks that you want to put in there. You definitely have an attractive energy this month. So you may not be looking for love, but there may be some, there may be an advance made. Push it back if you don't want it. Don't succumb to peer pressure if you're not feeling that you need to date, because that's actually what these two cards remind me of, is like family or peers coming in and saying, so are you dating anyone? Or when are we going to get a grandchild? Or like that stuff is crazy. That needs to stop. Let everybody experience life in their own timelines. So if you are a parent and you're pushing for a grandchild, stop that. And if you're a friend and you want your friend partnered up and they're happily single, leave them alone. And if you're the happily single person, tell these people to mind their own business. A lot of times they're just projecting and they're trying to distract themselves from their own lives. So if you're happy, good for you. And there's a lot to be happy about. And this is a positive card at the end of the day. So focus on the things that are bringing joy. Like I said, you've got a lot that you can check off when it comes to business and work and self-development. All right. When we look at your outcome, we have the golden egg. For many of you, this is the month when the synchronicity that we talked about here in work comes through. So everything is kind of aligning over the next, it may take a quarter of the year for this egg to hatch, but this is telling me that it's worth the time and energy. With any sort of egg metaphor, golden or otherwise, you have to incubate. So what are you doing right now to take what it is that you want and give it the love, the support, the warmth, the time, the energy that it needs? There's an incubation period, a latent sort of possibility that's on the horizon. And this is saying, don't forget what the big picture is there, which we'll be looking at here in just a moment, the big idea. So what is it that you're trying to accomplish and what are you doing to help it? And that's actually what I'm going to look at for the big idea. I'm kind of focusing this one specifically for you. So let's look at the golden egg a little deeper on this one and just say, what can you do to manifest a hope, a dream, or desire? What kind of work do you need to do to help the egg hatch? Okay. So we got the Knight of Cups in reverse. At its best, the Knight of Cups, like if we were to take this card and put it upright, this is about trusting your heart, knowing your heart, and taking that feeling and moving it forward in some direction. Knights are active, so are pages. Queens and kings tend to wait for other people to bring stuff to them. Knight is like the perfect, it's like the Goldilocks, right in between on the court cards, because it has a little bit of power, authority, and respect, but it's not above moving back and forth and making things happen. And it fights for what it wants. So I like that. If you want something enough, fight for it. If you love something enough, isn't it worth putting your all into it? And remember, you have the capacity to hold court with the king and also deliver the message. You're that perfect person in between. So you might just be in the in-between stage of stepping into queen or king energy. So keep building. It takes time, but you're respected when it comes to energy and tarot. This is a good position to have. To be knighted is a good thing, right? So I want you to respect where you're at, respect the path, and do something about it. So this is a call to action, basically. And the way that you can get people inspired or connected is to put your heart into it and to appeal to their heart as well. Facts don't always do it. So think about a common emotional interest that the two of you have And this is how you can get buy-in in an idea, in some sort of a movement. You're going to connect to the heart. Good speakers do that. They'll start with maybe an empathy phrase. I can understand why you're going through this, or I've done this myself as well. This is something that I'm actually passionate about, and I think we share a common interest. Why don't we work together on this? I have some ideas. Do you want to hear them? You've established rapport. You've established common interest. You've maybe even called if there's something that they're passionate about, whether it's like the environment or have family or creativity, talk about that. Say, I have something I think that you might be interested in based on what we've talked about before. Do you want to hear more? Get the heart to kind of like connect to the head, and then you're unstoppable. For the rest of you, you just want love. You're ready for love. And I think by and large, it will come through, but you have to let the dust settle. I'm going to repeat what I said before. Finish what you've started and get settled in before you start a new relationship or before you go head first into that, because this needs a little bit of grounding since the Knight card was reversed. All right? All right. Let's go ahead now and move into the next portion. So if you just joined, we just went through the big idea. We're going to take a look now at the blessings and the blocks and see what's coming through here. So blessings and blocks are opportunities and potential delays or lessons that come along the way. Okay? The blessing card and the block card. Let's talk about it. All right, so we're going to begin with your blessing card. We have temperance. It's kind of cool that we see a DJ in temperance. A typical sort of card, you would see an angel with 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on ground. What I got in my head when I saw this was to sample, which is something that we talked about before. To take a little bit of one thing, to take a little bit of another thing, and to find where you're at in the middle. So we definitely see someone playing the middle, but they're going to take the best elements of two things. And that's basically what a DJ does. They listen for common beats, common melodies, common sort of threads, and they're like, what if I put this into this, or what if I overlaid this over this? So your blessing this month is the ability to recognize patterns that are synchronistic and would also be melodically or sort of even just in everyday life kind of like harmonious. That's the best way that I can describe it based on what I'm seeing. So you would know, let's put it in a few different contexts. If you're going to have a party, certain people mix. If you're going to cook food, certain flavors complement. If you're going to create something using colors, there's certain colors also that complement. So you're going to find complementary elements and mix them together. And so I feel like you're supposed to mix and match when it comes to problem solving in your life. Mix, match, sample, and try new things. And you'll be surprised at what you can come up with. It's not about old versus new. It's about a blending of the two. When we look at blocks, we have fear, basically, coming through. The 9 of Swords invariably is not as bad as it seems, but we make it worse than it needs to be. So in a conversation, it's the elevation of the two voices until they end up yelling. In an argument, it can also be the sort of exchanging of jabs that doesn't do anything to alleviate. It just keeps getting more and more until like a pressure cooker, a volcano, or you think of another metaphor. There's basically the top blows, right? So what you want to do is find a way to let go of some of that or sleep on it. Interestingly enough, the one thing that typically is lacking in the 9 of Swords is sleep. It's insomnia. And so just by definition of that, we could say the way to neutralize the 9 of Swords is to not act immediately, to sort of like force yourself to spend a night or a day or a week with something before you act on it. So space things out a little bit. And then I've been talking about taking a fear or a question of doubt and just putting it into the opposite affirmative. So if you just think to yourself, what if I never am able to work this out? You're going to say, what if I can work this out? And then you're just going to say, I can work this out. And I've always been able to work it out, is how I would actually put this into it. I'm just finally ready now. What if I'm finally ready to figure out the solution? So just take a question or a fear and keep reworking it, keep editing it until you've put it into a statement that you can deal with. One thing that I like to look at with the Nine of Swords is, what if it was just the necessary trigger that you needed to get out of something that wasn't healthy for you? Because that's typically sometimes what this can be. It can be fear, it can be doubt. It can also just be things building up to the point where you don't have to go to the Ten of Swords. You see what's coming. You're just going to choose a different path. So sleep on it. Think about some more constructive ways to do it, whatever it is that you need to do, and then trust that you're going to be okay. All right? Let's move on to the viewers and readers' choice right now. So for this, we're going to look at some common themes that I see here, and you can vote on them. And then I'm going to choose one for myself that I think that all of us would benefit from looking at. All right, so let me just share what I'm looking at here, and we'll start the poll now. Okay, so let's look at what's in front of us and see what's calling. I want to look at how to deal with letting go, because there's a common theme between the two of these. You know, I'm actually going to choose that for the reader's choice, because I think that that's possibly the most important one. So I'm going to look at letting go, because I don't want the risk of it not being chosen. That's a really important one. All right. The other thing here is discernment. So we have the Lover's card here. And so if there's an opportunity in front of you, let's look at discerning, being discerning, making the right choice. I don't have room for all of that. I'll just say being discerning. I'm just going to put /right choice. The next one that I'd like to look at is this developmental golden egg. So I would say also, what's the best word? Incubating. Incubating, developing an idea. All right, and let's see. I'm going to just put moving. Moving on, moving up. On, up, or out. Expansion, basically. All right. Those are your three choices. I'm going to look at letting go, because we talked a lot about like the devil you know, all of that jazz. So we want to look at how you can get beyond this idea that, well, at least I know what I have, and I value that over not knowing what I have or whatever. So let's take a look at how to let go. Ace of Wands. So what a great card for that. For many of you, the answer to this question is know what's coming next, know what you want. Ace of Wands is an idea that you're developing. It's an epiphany. It's a call to action. It could also be someone that's putting something in front of you and saying, what do you think about this? So in order to let something go, really focus on, what do I want to do? How far would I go for that? What's the trade-off? But just really focus on the horizon. Because otherwise you're actually only kind of like backward gazing. And that's really what the Four of Pentacles was about. So this is the difference. This is like Janus the god, the two-faced god. So this would be Janus looking only in the past. This is Janus looking in the future. You can kind of combine the two, but you have to have the future gaze. So think to yourself, if I don't do this, the opportunity may not come back. If I don't do this, I'll never have a chance to know if I could do X, Y, or Z. If I don't do this, will I ever be able to sort of like not have regrets over that decision? So I oftentimes like to look at regrets and make them goals. And so if you think to yourself, why didn't I do this? Or if I don't do this, I'm going to get... So instead, make all of those your bucket list and just see how this measures off on that. But ultimately, the Ace of Wands is saying it's time to act. So ultimately here, if you have a great idea, if you have a great opportunity, this is basically encouraging you to take action on it. It's a yes, it's an affirmative if we were looking at a yes, no. Okay. All right, let's look at what you chose for me. Moving on, moving up, moving out, expansion. That's the one I would have chosen as well. All right, so we already chose through the Ace of Wands basically that it's time to do that. So let's see how you can enter into the energy of the world. I like where you're headed, Capricorn. King of Swords is fantastic. All right, so the King of Swords is basically the ultimate card for communication, and it's asking you to really put yourself out there in a way that you maybe haven't in using your voice. The King of Swords also gets to the point. So if there's something you need to do, don't beat around the bush, just say what you need to say and do what you need to do and act quickly and swiftly on that. So if it is about making that move, this is saying that you're the one that has to do that. Maybe you're going to connect with the right person, but you're not going to wait for something to come to you. Also, I don't know how many authorly types or creative types I have out there, but King of Swords in the world, that's about putting something into writing. So this could be curriculum, vlogging, blogging, public speaking, writing, some sort of a developmental package that you're going to share with the world. I like that quite a bit for you. The other thing with this is there could be sort of like a teaching energy or an exchange energy or public speaking again. So for some of you, there might be a seminar or something like that, either attending or giving that. But the King of Swords tends to be the one that's developing it. So if you've had a lot of life experiences, if you've had something that you've learned scientifically as well, this can be getting published, sharing something in a journal. There is something about sharing what you've learned. That will get you the recognition that will open the door that brings the world. So you're supposed to share some of your experiences in a way that's digestible and in a way that you can deliver or disseminate to the masses. The other thing is we've been talking about this the entire reading, so I feel like I'm kind of like beating this to a pulp, but you have to communicate. So this was asking for what it is that you need. And this is the same thing. And the King of Swords is saying, come on now, let's just go after this full force, right? So walk the walk, talk the talk, say what you need to do. And if you can't find a person that needs or that can help you out on that, then do it yourself. And so this could be self-made, self-published, but it is taking your words and moving forward with them. Okay. Let's take a look at what's next. We have the new portion of my reading, which is going to be looking specifically at Capricorn Sun, Rising, and Moon messages. And let me pull all three cards and we'll tailor for those different aspects of your chart. Okay. So let's go ahead now and take a look at each one of these messages. We're going to start off first with sun sign messages. Quite advantageous here. So we have the Four of Wands. So for sun sign, basically anyone born under this sign of Capricorn here, it's a great time for relationships. Whether it's developing one further, maybe taking it to the next level, this card can represent marriage or partnership, or attracting good partnerships in your life that are going to help you. This is good. And it shows me that if there's any karmic energy that you need to heal in existing relationships, now's the time to do it. One thing that's kind of nice about this Four of Wands versus a traditional one is you don't always see the partner energy present. A lot of times you just see the Four of Wands, and it's basically indicative of holding space. We also, this month got the Lovers. So I feel like there could be some opportunity rushing in that is going to require a decision on your part. So don't be surprised if you have to make a quick call when it comes to friendship, relationship. Maybe someone wants to hire you because it can work the same way. This contract isn't always marriage, but you're going to be asked to think on your feet and try to do your best to handle that well, because it's sometimes when we're put in that situation, we don't always know how to act. So if you need time, ask for time. Say, wow, this is so cool, and I'm very much interested in it. Can I sleep on it before I say yes? For a job, you should always be able to ask for time. Say, great, can I get back to you tomorrow or later this week? I need to think about this, or I have another interview. Whatever it is you need to do, ask for time if you need to. In a relationship, you may not be able to ask for as much time, but If it's about moving in or moving across the country or making some sort of a big commitment, just say, I'll get back to you tonight, or I'll get back to you tomorrow. I have to think, because this involves a change in my life too. So be sure before you go to the next step, but I think this looks really good for you. Four of Wands portends really good things with relationships, opportunities, and contracts. And by the time you see this, most of you will, especially next month, you'll be getting out of retrograde. So there'll be some good things to do with that energy, and you can say yes to a contract next month. So looks good to me. I like what I'm seeing here for you. Let's move on to the rising and ascendant sign. This is what I was highlighting earlier, was if you are Capricorn, rising or ascendant, basically this is how you project yourself to the world. Sun, which we just looked at, is who you are, but the rising and ascendant is what we want to be perceived as. For people that work a lot in the public sector, as a politician, maybe in government, or they're an actor, or you do a lot of community outreach, a big part of your energy is focusing on your ascendant, because you're focused on the world and how you're affecting the world. So for those of you that have the placement here, here's the message for you. Ambiguity is going to be a part of it, and how comfortable you are with the unknown is going to play a big part. Things are going to get clearer as you progress through the next 6 to 8 weeks. So it's kind of like a foggy day in San Francisco. It starts off and you can't see past your hand, and then oftentimes that burns off. Or even here in LA during June, May and June, we have like marine layers that come in. In San Francisco, the fog comes back in, but here it's gone in the afternoon or evening. So there are times sometimes where we can't see everything, but it usually burns off and there's some clarity. And this is about being comfortable in the times where it's just you, but you have faith and you have hope and you know what's beyond the unknown. So you're very much being asked to connect with your vision, your hope, your plan, and then if you need to, kind of like a lighthouse would, or putting a call out there, double check, make sure everything's okay, make sure everything's getting through that fog. The fog in the Eight of Swords can also represent other people tuning out. So as a leader, as a teacher, as a parent, as someone that's going to be the one that's leading the charge, because we got that right at the center with the Chariot, part of what you have to do is break through that boundary of distraction or disconnection and engage everybody again. You can ignore something and make it go away. Two and Eight of Swords are sometimes a feeling of like, if I just don't look at it, I won't have to deal with it. So deal with anything that is causing you that fear or anxiety. And both the 8 and the 8 and the 9 of Swords are usually not as bad as they seem, but the problem with the 8 of Swords is inaction. Usually the character that's kind of like hemmed in with all of those swords, all they have to do is kind of move out of them, take off the blindfolds and kind of tiptoe around them. It's not as much of a prison as it is a mental prison. So that's kind of what we're seeing here is limiting thoughts. So release the limiting thoughts, look at what scares you, try to move beyond the ambiguous today, tomorrow, and trust that the end of the week is going to be okay. By the way, you should look at my 7-day forecast if you're feeling a little bit blocked in that, because it can help you map it out. So if you're going through a foggy day, you'll know what's coming through. And that's the best advice I can give you, is that there are moments where it's not all going to be clear, but you've already done the work to make sure that it's going to be all right. So just follow through on the plans and you'll be okay. All right. And take those blindfolds off and look at what you need to look at. The more you can understand and educate yourself, just like emotions, the more you can be on top of things. Let's move on to moon sign. So for Capricorn moon, a lot of times this is going to be, this is a difficult placement, let me be honest with you, because I've known people in my life that have Capricorn moon. And what happens with the Capricorn moon is you try to intellectualize other people's emotions, and sometimes that doesn't work because the heart doesn't always make sense. Now, the moon in general is just the secret part of yourself as well that you don't always share with others. So let's start with that, and then let's work through the tricky part that I've experienced with many Capricorn moons, and I'll try to help you out with that. So the hidden sort of insight or gem or thing that you have that you don't share with people is, first of all, you can be stubborn, but you also have the ability to be a great leader or boss. And people may be surprised at your capacity to stand your ground, to tell them yes or no, to tell other people what to do, and to do so and be unfazed by it. So you are kind of like a great leader, but you don't always give yourself a chance to do it. So this is your month to do that. Keep an open mind. The only thing that I would say with this moon sign energy and this reversal of the King of Wands is there can be a closing down of the borders here with respect to kind of like receiving new information or letting people in, and you don't want to do that. It's good to kind of hold your ground on something that you're passionate about, but always be open to other perspectives and other directions, because all good leaders need to do that. Now, for the heart side that I was talking about, even though this is moon, this could be you not wanting to give an inch with somebody and being really angry that they can't see it from your perspective. This could also be not understanding why someone else won't do it your way. So I see like butting of the horns here, basically, where the two of you are just saying like, it's my way or the highway. So moon sign this month, try to give a little bit and see what that does. And I think that's going to help you out. And then stay open and try to empathize, or just ask, be present, listen. Let the other person talk a little bit and see if you can understand their perspective. It may come through, but at the end of the day, remember that we can't always make sense of this. It kind of sometimes beats to its own rhythm, and you're not going to be able to conduct that. That you can't control someone's heart, okay? And that's the message that I have for you this month. Instead, focus on what you can do and be the born leader that you already are. All right, that's the special sun, rising, and moon messages. Now we're going to get ready for the meditation. Before I do that, just a quick reminder, because a lot of times we kind of go out into space when we do the meditation. If you've enjoyed today and you've never subscribed, please consider doing that. When I hit the next milestone, I'm going to do, I'll open this up to a Q&A when I hit 325. I think I'm pretty close to that. So I'll do some more Q&As for members. So please subscribe if you haven't already. It'll help us get closer to that. Join me on social media so you know what's going on. I also do short readings, sometimes a one-card reading on my different social media channels. And you can give back, and I'll say thank you at the end if you feel called to do so. Also, if you ever want to check out my schedule, it's right there on my website. All right, let's get ready for the meditation. So as I'm getting set up here, I'll give you a chance to vote on two different instruments today. We can look at we can listen to the crystal pyramid or the singing bowl, whichever one feels more kind of like opening to you. And now let's look at all these cards here real quick and see what kind of energy. I like this, actually. I want to look at the egg. We're going to break through. Imagine that you are the sort of phoenix in this golden egg, or the chick in this egg, and you're going to be able to break through. So question answered there. All right, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Before you go directly into the meditation, think of a question that you have for me. If you haven't written that down, you can write it down. If you've already done that, just focus now on letting go, and we'll look at your final card afterwards. So nice deep breath. Let go of the stress, the pressure, the anxiety, the preconceived notions, all the stuff that we kind of like bundle in like a tight ball of yarn, and just let it go. Imagine that the ball of yarn is unraveled and your energy is open, your heart is open. And as you tune into the heart space, imagine that you could see this sort of golden egg that we were looking at just a moment ago. And you can take that energetic golden egg and hold it in your hands for a moment and just kind of bring it close to you. Imagine that it's almost like a baby here, that energy of the golden egg. And this can represent in your life something that you want to see. Maybe it's love. We got a lot of love cards for you today. The Lovers and the Four of Wands in particular. So maybe you're manifesting a relationship. Maybe it's a baby. The egg can be fertility. So maybe you're bringing in some sort of new life in your life as well. This could also be the birthing or manifestation of an idea. So just like the Empress, you're going to nurture that and see it into fruition. This could be you being reborn, in which case you could just imagine now that the energy of the golden egg surrounds you. So however you want to see this, know now that the egg is getting ready to hatch. You can start to see a crack forming. You can start to see something want to manifest or come out of the egg. So as we breathe, as we meditate here over the next few moments, I want you to imagine that you are capable of either nurturing this new thing and allowing it to come forth, or you are going to be able to push yourself out of this sort of block. So I think all of us might benefit from that, imagining that we can kind of push at the boundaries of the energy around us like the golden egg and just come out like the sun. So focusing now on your power center, your solar plexus, imagine that each ray of light breaks through your own shell or breaks through that little shell in front of you and is going to allow for whatever needs to be revealed to be revealed. So relax, enjoy the sound bath. I'll be back in a moment after I play the singing bowl. We're going to take a look at your final question that you have for me. Take a nice deep breath. And imagine now that you could stretch out your arms if you were imagining yourself within that egg, and you see beautiful wings forming beneath your arms and your hands. And like a thunderbird or a phoenix, you can take flight. For those of you that were nurturing the egg, imagine now that whatever it is that you were trying to manifest has started to come into fruition. You can see it, you can touch it, you can smell it, you can taste it. It's right around the corner. And like the 2 or the 3 of wands, you're just going to stay aware and awake, and you're going to really step through that new opportunity that you've built, that manifestation, that synchronicity. All right. If you're not already awake, open up your eyes, rub your hands together, put your hand on your heart. Focus on the question that you have for me. What is it that you want me to look at? Open your eyes. Keep repeating that question. Keep focusing on that question. Let's take a look at the cards and see what's coming through. All right, we have a healing card coming through here, believe it or not. It's a very different version of the 3 of Swords. So for your final card today and your final question for me, it's not a cut and dry sort of answer here. So if you wanted a yes, no, the 3 of Swords is typically not a yes. The only time it would be a yes is if whatever you're doing is going to facilitate the healing. This is saying, let's prioritize the heart right now. What I've been doing or what I've been through may not have been best for me. So you're given permission to take a change or a shift or a movement in your life that will help you feel happier, healthier, stronger, that will put the heart first. It's a reminder that everything over time, it heals, it gets a little bit better. And so the most important thing for you right now is to be kind to yourself, to be kind to your heart, and to do something that is going to let your heart soar and be happy. So happiness is the key here. And if you are unhappy, this is your call to action. If you are wanting to do something because you've felt that sort of frustration, because 3 of Swords can be disappointment, setback, a no, something that made you angry, you're going to take that energy like we talked about earlier and shift it around into something productive. Let me just clarify the 3 of Swords to ask what you can do to elevate it. I don't always do it, but with this I will. So the Moon card is about, there's a lot of things I can talk about with this, but the first thing is don't trouble yourself in having to prove being right or wrong. Do, however, look at the things that are causing you to be afraid or inspired. It's about going beneath the surface here. So This happens usually because we have ignored something going on. And so the moon card is really about getting back to basics and saying, all right, what am I afraid of? How long has this been going on? Being honest with yourself, and then trusting at your core your gut instinct, your emotions, your intuition. But this is more instinctual than intuition. So a lot of times we just feel it on a core level, like I have to do this or I don't have to do this. That's all you need to kind of go into for your yes or no. If it's been an issue of honesty, because the moon and the Seven of Swords or the Five of Swords can all have kind of connotations of honesty or right versus wrong, then you have to do what's right for you at this moment in time. If someone continues to come forward and they're just not showing up the way that they need to, then this is a time for healing and going your own path. Ultimately, the moon, there's always a path in that card, whether it's a river or actually seeing sort of like a road. So your job is to take that path and to move forward and to move on. Okay? So there you go. It's not always yes and no, not at least on my channel. So that's what I was picking up on. Thank you again for everybody that's been present today. Whether this was your first time or you've been watching me for 3/4 of a decade, it's been a while now. I'm glad to have you here. Let's take a look at those that joined brand new today, and I'm going to welcome you. So we'll start off with the new members first, and then we'll move on to anybody that gave back with a super sticker or super chat. All right. So for the brand new members, looks like we have a few here. Donnie Martel, thank you so much. Brand new. Rennie Rain, VTA or VT Abigail, thank you very much. Vicky K, Handi K, I'm just going to say. Mystique Qua, Joyce Sullivan, Teresa Cohen, Audrey Christopher, Cass Darrow, Cindy Chen. Some of these may have joined yesterday, but I'll just go through them. And I think that's everybody from the last 12 to 24 hours. So thank you so much to all of those members, whether you joined today or in the collective yesterday. I'm glad you are a part of this family now. All right, for the super stickers and super chat, let's see who participated today. We only have two, so big thank you to Anita and to Cut and Paste. I appreciate both of you. It's not how many, I'm just glad that someone showed up. And I see a ton of members here too, so I know a lot of you are doing consistent contributions in that form, so thank you so much. Just a reminder again, and thank you, Mermaid Crystal. If you need to connect with me, all my links are up there, but I'm gonna put a few here right now. Let's see. Let me just get my keyboard here and post this one more time. So if you would like to join me on social media, here are all of the links to all of my accounts. And also just a few quick ones that I'll throw out here. If you want to join me on Instagram, or if you want to join me on Facebook or on Twitter, you can do it through those one links that I just put out there right now. Okay? Thank you very much. And such a pleasure to be here with you today and to help you work on your life and your energy in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Thank you, Tony D, as well. I appreciate that. I will be back again to wrap up the zodiac at the end of this week. We're going to be looking at Aquarius and Pisces on Thursday and on Friday. My Sunday collective, I just did yesterday, so take a look at it. There's a 7-day forecast. I put timestamps so you can look at that. If nothing else, just look at the 7 days or the special topic if you'd like to. There's some alchemy in that, which I think you might like. And then I have something special that I'll be doing next Monday because we have an extra day in the month. So I'll be doing a bonus reading. And the bonus readings are different every time that I do it. I'll see if there's something cosmically that I want to tune into, or maybe I'll put another thing up to be voted on. We'll see where it goes. It may just also be reader's choice, where I just look at whatever I feel called to. They're typically magical and a lot of fun. So that'll be a week from today. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a great one. Good to see you. Hope you have a great week ahead and a great month ahead. Until I see you next, have a great one, okay? Bye-bye.